And thank you, Mr. CEO, for the report. I think you and I, Miguel, have worked very hard together to cope with this economic downturn. We grinded out about $500 million of structural pension reforms, and we've, in many ways, around this horseshoe in the city, set ourselves apart from the gridlock that's in Washington and Sacramento, and from the rancor of places like Wisconsin and Ohio. And I think we know, as you've stated here, we've reduced some of our set costs, the size of the general fund, the number of employees we have in the thousands to where it was when Tom Bradley left office 20 years ago, when there was 1 million fewer people here. And I think we've increased efficiency and accountability here at City Hall. I was part of a panel with the Aspen Institute in Washington, D.C. on Friday with Kasim Reed, who's the mayor of Atlanta. And he used to say that Los Angeles, while we still have a road to finish our work, that we still have to go some distance down the road, we are second only to Atlanta in terms of the amount of pension reform we did. Well, he actually laid out the numbers, and I think we've actually done more than Atlanta. He was saying in New Jersey, Governor Christie gets a lot of credit for going from 5.5% to 7.5% over a 7-year period. He said in Atlanta we went from 8 to 13% in 6 months. Well, when I did the math, we went from 6 to 11 right away, which is equally big numerical increase, but a larger percentage increase.
Right.
And our labor partners, as you mentioned, deserve credit for actually facing this head on and joining us in those negotiations that you and I were at the center of. This report heavily favors cuts to core services, potential tax increases, and I don't disagree that we have to maximize efficiency and have a real discussion about taxes and revenues. But missing from the report, which is not a criticism of you, it's not the sort of report that CAO would put forward, but something for all of us to look at, is how we add revenues to the budget, not just through taxes, but actually through the growth in our economy. It's not something that we can budget around, but it seems to be a discussion of what our future is. Absent of that is a discussion that's incomplete. Growing the economy here must be a primary focus of what we look at, because it's the economic downturn that first put us into this fiscal tailspin, and one that will only be accelerated if our response is restricted to not looking at what the causes of losing jobs and a downturn in our economy are. It will mean that we have to, when we do that, we'll have more money for our core services. And we have advantages that I think other cities don't, that are in our favor. Our geographic position, being the eastern capital of the Pacific Rim, the northern capital of Latin America, etc. It is wide open, and it's time for us colleagues to stake our claim to that. And as a global economy, the work that we're doing at the port, the increased work we need to do at the airport, we have to begin to leverage these assets. We have to look at training our workforce, as the mayor and I have worked on, to look at strategic industries, teaching computer coding, for instance, in our high schools. As we see Silicon Beach, which I know Mr. Rosendahl just did a great gathering about, and I've been having a number of meetings with our CEOs and others who are investing in LA. Silicon Valley is looking to LA, because 90% of the internet will be video-based. So $250 million that YouTube just invested in our city, other companies that we've been able to land here, like Coda Automotive in Mr. Weston's district. This is the future of how we can do that. And we also can't afford a city tax scheme that, as we have talked about, taxes those businesses who start here. And even those companies have mentioned to me, we need some reforms and continued reforms, whether it's the abolition of our gross receipts tax or continued reform on that. I appreciate the work that we have done here. So I wanted to cite those because I think that we have here, and I know I have to wrap up, Mr. President, but we have done a tremendous amount. If you look at the projections, colleagues, the most important one is there's $1.36 billion in projections that we have already saved. That is work that we have done in here, and that is an incredible number. But if we're maybe 70% of the way, this last 30% will probably feel as painful as that first 70%. But we have to stay the path, but increase that conversation, not just to be about the cuts, but how we truly grow our economy in the future.